Hi, my name is Ankap Ngam, and for this session, we are going to talk about the lease accounting non-standard calendar changes that we made in application 10.6.1 release. The agenda for this session, we are going to talk about the different calculation of net rent between the current approach and the new approach. The main calculation changes, form change, and we're going to do some demo going through the TRIRIGA itself and show you the patch helper workflow related to this change. The different calculation of the net rent payment for the current approach that we had we have is was using the net rent payment um, that is calculated by spreading the total amount on each of the payment schedule into each of the fiscal period. So each of the fiscal period would have some amount and not zero. With the new approach, we're now going to calculate the net rent payment based on the due date of the payment line item. If the due date of the payment line item itself falls within that fiscal period, the amount will be part of the net rent of that fiscal period. So in each of the fiscal period, it could be more than one payment line item, and it could be none at all. So with these different approaches, the result in your NPV value would be differ as well. So in this screenshot is the example that I'm using the 544 calendar. The due date of the payment line item is on the first day of each month. So basically I'm paying every first day of the month on the first. So I'm going to expand this screenshot so you see what I mean. I'm going to talk about the example here. So in the highlighted columns here, the orange one is the current approach, which is the old approach basically. The green one is where the new approach is doing. So this is a example of 544 calendar. The fiscal period 2018-01, it starts from 1/1/2018, January 1st, 2018, and ends February 4th of 2018. It would be $10,000 on the net rent column posted only. But for the new approach, it's now gonna say 20,000. So, like I said earlier, that I have the payment line item. I have two payments now. First is on January 1st of 2018 for $10,000, and another payment is on February 1st of 2018 for another $10,000. So that's why there are two payments that has the due date for between 1/1/2018 and 2/4 of 2018. So that's why now with the new approach, it's gonna post $20,000. And it does that for other fiscal period as well. Now we're gonna look at the period of 2018-09, where the old approach saying 10,000, but the new approach would only doing zero. So that period, it has the fiscal start date on September 3rd of 2018, and the end of the fiscal period is on September 30th of 2018. So between those two dates, um, we don't have any payment because the payment is on September 1st of 2018, and the next one would be October 1st of 2018. So between 9/3, 2018 to 9/30th, 2018, there's no payment. So that's why it's showing zero. Hope this is understand. And then go to the next. So the main calculation changes, like I just talked earlier in the previous screenshot, is that we identify the net rent payment based on the due date of the payment line item now. And the second calculation change is how we calculate the number of days in the partial period scenarios. So because it's a non-standard calendar, so not every month would have 30 days period. If you are using the 30-day basis method to do all the calculation for accounting schedule, so this um that if your first or your last period of the accounting schedule is a partial period, it could result in that those period is less than 30 days month, and oh, it's less than 30 days period, like 445 and 544, like that. There would be like 28 days period or 35 days period. So it could be less than 30 days or more than 30 days. But if we're using the 30 days basis calculation, we have to make those period to be a 30-day period first by using the calculation of 30 divided by number of days for that period, 28 or 35 in case of 445, 544, or 454, times number of partial days for that period. Let's say like you're there for 15 days for that first period. So it's 30 divided by 28 times 15, or 30 divided by 35 times 15, like that. So this would affect the interest expense because of the prorated period. Also, it would affect the accounting term when you're using the 30 days basis to calculate, and also it would affect the amortization. The third bullet is the calculate amortization daily. Now the amortization for the finance schedule will calculate daily when using the actual day basis, and I can go over it in demo. The last change is we now remove the calculation of the rent daily rate and rent monthly rate on the payment schedule. We use this when we did the average of the payment, like how we did for the older approach. That's why we no longer needed this. So for the form change, we hide the net rent basis field on the application setting form. That's the only change we made for the form. So there are 6 examples that I'm gonna be showing. The first and second one, it's the same um, example, but the only different is that is use 30 days basis or actual day basis when you have like a full period, meaning the first and last period are full. There's no partial. The second example is for partial period. The first and last has partial period, meaning it's not full. It's like start later after the fiscal start date or end before the fiscal end date. So, and that fiscal period itself has the days less than 30 days, like 28 days instead of 30. So we're gonna do 30 days basis and also actual day basis as well. The last example is the partial period in the fiscal period that you have more than 30 days, like 35 days period, for example. So we're going to do that for both 30 days basis and actual day basis as well. So now I'm going to go back to TRIRIGA to show you the example. So I have these 6 examples created already. I just want you to show you the calculations and all. Um, so the first example is the full period with 30 days basis. Before going there, what I'm saying about 30 days basis and actual day basis is I'm talking about the application setting. You can set that up here using that straight line calculation basis, 30 days or actual day basis. These are not new. These are already there. So you can change this up. So in my example, it depend on your company. Some company using 30 days basis, some company using actual day basis. I'm just showing you both approach. So in the full 30 days period, So the full period for 30 days basis, I just have the example that start on 9/1/2019 and end 8/31/2024. And my payment is from the same date, 9/1/2019 and 8/31/2024. And each, anniversary, I have that 1,000 increase. On the accounting tab, my accounting start date and end date are the same as a commencement date and expiration date. So the accounting calendar is 445 fiscal calendar. So this is what I have set up. So from 9/1/2019 is the first day of that fiscal period, and 8/31/2024 it's also the end date of a fiscal period. So in this case, I don't have any prorated period. Now we're gonna come and look at the GAAP operating schedule. So for the net rent payment, as you can see, my first fiscal period start 2019-08, which is on the night. The first start date of this period is September 1st of 2019. So I have the payment on every day, every first day of the month, which is on the first. So now you see that I have the net end of 10,000 for that period, and then 20,000 for the next period, and zero for that. Like I said earlier, so the payment will falls only based on the payment due date. If the payment due date falls in between that fiscal start and end of that each fiscal period, then your net rent will be accumulated. Um, so now we'll look at the rent expense. So in this case, rent expense is gonna be even out for all the period because I don't have any prorated period. So for that, now we're gonna go over the local reporting, which is gonna be my finance schedule. So the same for net rent, that it's gonna show 10,000, 20, and then zero based on the due date of the payment line item. Um, and for the amortization column, we use the 30-day basis, right? So in this case, it's gonna spread out evenly. There's no prorated period at all. So it's gonna, even out, straight line out. So this is the first example. Nothing changed much here. So now I'm gonna go the full period, but using actual day basis. It's the same example as I mentioned in the previous example. The only difference is for the operating schedule. This is not new. This is already there. Um, the rent expense will now calculate not a straight line, but it's gonna calculate based on the actual day for that fiscal period. Let's say this fiscal period has 28 days, then it will calculate 28 days. This has 35 days, it will calculate 35 days. So it's not gonna be even for all the fiscal period anymore. This is for operating schedule, and this is the new stuff. This is not the new stuff. But for local reporting, um, the amortization column here that I mentioned is gonna now calculate using the actual day basis as well. If you use actual day basis set up in application setting. So it's not gonna be even out like how I showed in the previous example. It's gonna calculate based on the number of days you in that fiscal period itself. So this one is 28 days, 35 day, 28, 28, 35 like that. So it's not gonna be straight line like how I show it in the previous example. And then now we're gonna go over the next example, which is the partial period less than 30 days. using the 30 days basis example. Um, so for this scenario, I'm setting up the commencement date 3/15/2019 and 3/14/2022. And then the payment line item, I have it for the same. And every anniversary, I have it increased for $1,000. So now on accounting tab, I also setting up the start date and end date with the same commencement and expiration date using the 445 fiscal calendar. And for this example, the first fiscal period that my March of 15, 2019 falls to is my fiscal start is on March 3rd of 2019 and in March 30th, 2019. It's a 28-day period. So if I come down to the operating gap schedule here, so this period, like I said earlier, is start March 3rd of 2019 and March 30th of 2019. And my payment is on the first day of every month. On the first, like first. So you see that the first period is prorated because of my payment is prorated from my payment line item. The second month is double because of the due date of the payment. I have two payment falls into that fiscal start and end. And then the next one is only 10,000, and then the fourth one is zero. So like I said, it looks at the due date of the payment line item. And the rent expense, you see that even though it's 30 days basis, the first period itself, it's prorated because we're not starting on the first day of that fiscal period. So that's why it's like less than 10,000. It's only $6,260. But the next period onward is gonna be 10,956 until the last period, which is also prorated. Then it's not gonna be the same amount for the rest of the period, like it shows how it shows in the rest of the period. That is for the gap. Now we're going to the finance schedule. The net length's the same, which is looking after the payment line item due date. But the amortization schedule, the amortization columns, for the first and the last period, they're not gonna be prorated and not gonna be the same amount as it shows on the other full period, because those two, the first one and the last one, are the prorated date. So now I'm going to the same example, but using the actual day basis. For the gap operating schedule, like I said, this is not new. The rent expense, it's not going to be straight line. It's now going to calculate based on number of days for that fiscal period. For the first and the last fiscal period that are prorated, it's also going to count the actual days that um, that start from that fiscal period itself. And for the finance schedule, the amortization column, it now is not going to do that straight line anymore. It's going to use the actual day basis, number of days in that fiscal period, to calculate that. So the first one and the last one is going to be smaller than the others because you're there not for the full period. You're there just only partial. So those two records that I mentioned is when your first and last fiscal period are in the period that has 28 days, which is less than 30. Now I'm going to show you when you have a first and last fiscal period that is more than in the period of 35 days period, not 30 days period. So I have the example of commencement date start on 1st January of 2019 and end December 31st of 2020. My payment is also the same, like how I set up the others, which is um, every anniversary I have the $1,000 increase. On the accounting tab, I set the accounting start and ends the same, like how I set up commencement date and expiration date. And then on the GAAP operating schedule, my rent expense, you see that the rest of the fiscal period, I would have a little bit more than the first fiscal period because I'm in like a 35 days and then my first fiscal period itself start 12/30th of 2018, but my accounting start date is on January 1st of 2019. My fiscal end date, first fiscal end date is ending February 2nd of 2019. So the first fiscal period itself is like a 30-day or 35 days period. And the last period is also a 35-day period. Start 12th to 25th of 2022 and January 28th of 2023. So now I'm going for local reporting. So for the local reporting, the amortization column, you see that the first one is also lesser than the rest. And then the last one is also lesser than the rest. This is for 30 days basis. And for the actual day basis, gonna calculate. This is even though it's 35 days period, but you're not starting from the first day of that fiscal period. So that's why it's not calculated 35. It's only calculated the actual day. So this is calculated actual day, and the last one would be smallest because you would there not the like not even half of the period. So for local reporting, the amortization column is also going to calculate the actual day as well. It's no longer like how the previous example that it shows the next period onward to be straight line. This is now going to calculate actual day. Okay. Again, like I said, number of days for that partial period is using, so you have to make it to be a 30-day kind of period in before doing the partial calculation, like how I said here. That using 30 divided by number of days of the period, 28 or 35 in case of 445, 454 or 544, and then time number of days that you're in your debt partially. So for the patch helper workflow related to this non-standard calendar change, there's only one, which is to hide the net rent basis field on the application settings. The patch helper, even though it said 10.6.0.4, as long as you haven't upgraded already yet to 10.6.0.4 in your system, if you upgrade to the 10.6.1 release, this The 10.6.1 main patch helper itself will automatically trigger this 10.6.0.4 patch helper as well, if you haven't already did 10.6.0.4 fix patch. That's all for this session. Thank you for listening, and you have a wonderful day.